This episode of WrapOn Podcast is brought to you by Brothers Chemical. Brothers Chemical manufactures Vinyl Off and Ghost Off, two of the finest removal and fleet restoration products on the market. And they've just released their Adhesive Off Pro, a low evaporating, fast action glue remover that cuts through adhesive residue better than anything else on the market, saving you time and money on your next removal. Find Adhesive Off Pro at select retailers and online at brotherschemical.com. Use code WRAPON for free shipping on your first online order. That's brotherschemical.com.
Also brought to you by Signburst Workstations, graphic design and rip computers for sign and vehicle wrap shops.
All right, let's go. I think people being able to put a face to it is critical. I think it's important, and I think it's cool that you're willing to do that. I think that there are probably some 3M people that take advantage of staying in the background, right? Because it's like, to their defense, it's like let the product do the speaking for me, right?
Yeah.
Like I'll answer the questions, help, and be there for support, but like also like putting yourself out there to be the face of, you know, even if it, like for you, it's training, right?
Yeah.
So it's like being the face of that is, you know.
Yeah, no, like I said, I'm interested because first off, I don't know who's going to want to hear from me, right? Because it's, you know, I mean, most of your guests are people within this industry who have, you know, cut their chops and done things. It's not that I haven't done anything in the industry, but I'm not an installer, right? I don't own a business. Sure. You know, I'm coming from big corporate side, so I have a different perspective, but I've spent, you know, 10 plus years in the industry and seen hundreds of shops. And so I'm part of me is curious to see, you know, one or two things. One, obviously who's going to listen when they see it's me, but then two, what the reception is from, you know, again, because I think a lot of people just be like, okay, hey, screw the 3M guy, right?
Sure.
It's going to be the corporate jargon and all that stuff.
Josh, we good? We rolling?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So if you want, let's just start. Yeah. We'll start there
100%.
Because, you know, you can just introduce yourself and who you work for and what your position is.
Yeah, hi. So Nick Barbera. I'm the accredited training manager at 3M for really all of our training products in what we call our transportation business group, right? So predominantly, and where our relationship starts, right, is as on the graphic side, but I'm also responsible for our facility care side and some of the other divisions that fall within our business. But where a lot of my background is and my knowledge is on the graphic side of our business.
Sure. So if you had to simplify that, make it super simple, how would you describe what your job or your position looks like?
Yeah. So in this industry, in this field, I am responsible for our training programs and curriculums that we run on our graphic side. So we have, you know, 7 different programs that we run or that we offer. And then we have 8 different ATCs or authorized training centers where you can go and get an accreditation at. And so I'm responsible for those ATCs, the programs that they can run, as well as then our authorized trainers that we have, which we have a handful across the United States and Canada that I'm responsible for. So you fall into that bucket of what we'd call an authorized trainer. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
So responsible kind of for that group of individuals.
And thank you for allowing me to be part of it. It's been
Listen, it's really thank you from us, right? I mean, we couldn't do what we do without that support from our training community,
sure.
As well as you know, the AEs, or what we call application engineers, or AEs up in St. Paul. Like, that is a massive competitive advantage we have, right? I mean, that's something that we can use at our disposal, that, you know, when customers have, you know, issues, problems, concerns, you know, need more help, need more technical information. That's something both on the sales side and the business side, you know, that's a resource we can tap into, bring those people into a customer, a situation, and really try to help that customer problem solve, you know, what's going on, what their issue is. So really it's thank you from us that we have, you know, great trainers that not only understand how to train on our product and are very well versed in, you know, whether it's graphic films, whether it's personal auto films, whether it's our architectural films, but are also in a lot of cases, you know, business owners, right?
Sure.
So they've kind of gone through the ups and the downs they've seen, what it's like, working all night, having to reprint panels because maybe registration's not right, or, they ripped a panel, or, that they show up and the graphics are too small. And so you're going, okay, how do we problem solve that, right? To make the customer happy. So I think not only them having the knowledge and the understanding of what our products are, right? And how they work and how to install them. I think the other massive advantage that our authorized trainers bring is that real world, hey, I've lived there, I've walked a mile in your shoes.
Sure.
I've shown up on a job and things have gone wrong, and this is how you fix it. This is how you make this work. So I think it's a massive advantage to have, the trainers that we do have and the facilities that we have as really, if you're a 3M customer, and even if you're not a 3M customer, right? But you're working with us, right? I mean, that's stuff that's at your disposal,
Sure.
To be able to use.
So I think about it, like just hearing you say it, like that sounds really corporate, right? Like it sounds like the the good corporate answer and everything, but it's like from an authorized trainer's perspective, it's like I think like there's 13 of us or something like that. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, something like that.
And then so it's like I think everybody's especially me, like I'm super proud of it. Like I feel like we're part of like an elite group, and I get it a lot of times too, where I'm talking to people and they're like, "Man, you're pretty down to earth to work with 3M," and I'm like, 3M wants us to be who we are. It's not like we have to, it's obviously like there's guidelines, and we want to make sure that like everybody's being respectful and everything, but there is like 3M allows us to be humans, be people, be like, speak to the, because we speak the language, we've lived the life, we know what it's like. So I think that's a misconception. A lot of people, like when they see us come in, they're expecting us to be that zipped up, tight, perfect. You know? And obviously, like we're trying to, we're going to do our best. We're going to be professional. But again, at the end of the day, like, I've been up at 2 a.m. plenty of nights, and like it's like we are a little reckless and a little edgy here and there, But
yeah, and I think that's like the misconception of 3M, right? That it's we're always buttoned up, we're always polished, we're always. And that's
perfect. Right?
Perfect.
Everybody thinks they're, it's like when people talk about 3M, oh, you're not so perfect. And it's like, once I got involved with it, it's like, nobody's claiming to be perfect. Actually, they're pretty proud of the fact that they can evolve and grow. And the only way they can do that is by finding their pitfalls and finding the things that they're doing wrong. And like, so I don't know, it's kind of built into the culture, that whole like, just engineering and trying to make things better and be able to serve the customer better. I mean, just even the training division as a whole is just there to help people, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like I think people overlook that sometimes.
It really goes back to like the moniker of like the science applied to life.
Sure,
right?
There you go.
And we really look at it and say, and again, this is going to sound super corporate, right?
Oh, it started off that way. I mean, you just gave what is that? The slogan right there?
That's our slogan. Our moniker.
Yeah.
So,
when you lead with that, it's just gonna sound corporate.
Yeah, no, it does. And I try not to be the corporate guy, right? Because my background and stuff is in sales and spending a lot of time calling on, small to medium-sized shops like yourself. And so I've been in thousands of wrap shops and sign shops across, the country. And so I've seen, all the way from some of the largest shops in the country to, a one-man operation running out of someone's garage, right? I mean, I've seen it all. So I try not to come off as that, like, hey, yeah, I'm this like corporate guy. But, in my defense, right? Like my whole really professional work experience is all been at 3M. So I started out as an intern in this division, got hired, and then I've worked in various sales roles in different territories across. So like 3M is kind of ingrained to me in when we speak, when we talk, and how we act, and a lot of when I say that science applied to life, and like we take that seriously. Like, not only is it ingrained to us as employees, but like we truly live that when our goal, when we put these things together, like it is scientific based, and so that's why we come off so polished. That's why we come off sometimes so corporate, because science really is kind of an exact thing, right? Sure. I mean, like you work through your process, but at the end of the day, like it's a very exact process, and so we try to take that exact process and then apply it back to life, where we say, hey, you can you can do these things, you can use these applications, and this is how it works, and you got to change things. But
you talk about it like being ingrained, like even when we're talking about like the installation bays or the school at 3M is referred to as a lab, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like, you could easily call that an institute or an academy or like because that's what it is. But in reality, it's a lab, right? Like you're going down there, you're testing, and you're doing your research and development. You're working with
100%.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool. Like, again, it's a little nerdy, but it's also, pretty cool that like that's what you're doing. Like, you're living that.
And we learn just as much. I mean, part of the reason for having, that application center in St. Paul, as much as it is to educate and to promote, our products and educate people on how to use our products, it's just as much for us to learn from the people who come through that school, right? So I mean, when if anyone's ever been up to St. Paul and kind of gone through, the training class, right? I always joke around. I always recommend December, January, February, probably not the best time to go up there. It's a little chilly.
It is. 6 foot of snow, man.
It's -40. It's a little cold, but if you're into that thing, then go up at that time. It is still.
They'll say stuff like, "At least it's not a blizzard." And I'm like, "Where's the gauge at? How do we gauge it's not a blizzard?" Where I'm from, this is a blizzard.
Yeah, their gauge on like what's cold and not is way different than most people, but. Everybody who comes through those classes, and I don't care whether it's, windows, walls, floors, fleet, or a dyno class or a vehicle color change class, we're learning just as much from you, right? Because we want that real world practical experience. It's what makes us better. And so why we call it a lab building is there's, scientists that sit in that building and we take feedback from customers, whether it's in how our adhesive works or how our control tack works or how our comply patterns work and stuff like that. That's real feedback we take from customers, right. and we relay that back to product developers and scientists and say, hey, we've had X amount of people come through training and they're all saying this or they're all seeing this and they're demonstrating this. Can we improve that? And so a lot of our product improvements start from the actual customer coming through that class saying, this is what we see in the real world, right? This is what we need to solve.
So a good example of that recently for me was going to the PPF Summit. Mm-hmm. So it was like working with Logan, watching him build the new SOPs or the new class for the PPF class. It's really cool, really awesome. Like obviously, like he's very dedicated and passionate about that. But he got done with it. It's really good. It's awesome. And then next step, PPF Summit, bring everybody in from around the world and then get their input on it and how can we make adjustments. And even like, I can't remember the guy's name. I kind of feel bad now, but there was a guy that was there so we would put in this data. We broke up into groups. We'd put in this data of how we would do, each one of these things step by step. He's recording that and then like breaking it down and like putting it was so cool to see. Like, it's like the summit's cool anyway.
Right.
The like bigger picture, you get all these trainers together and you're seeing all these incredible things. Everybody's working together. Like there's this unity and like education and just, chopping it up, with fellow trainers, like all that was cool. But then it's like, and then underneath it's like this thing's happening where it's like, we just took a really good platform and we just boosted it, like made it incredible. You know what I mean? Like like I said, some of the best PPF people around the world and you bring them together and it's like, dang, I thought we had something good there for a minute anyway. And now this thing just erupted into this like really cool thing. So.
Yeah. And that's the part, right? And we're working on our social media and making that better so people can kind of get a peek behind the curtains. Cause I think the public perception a lot of time is super buttoned up and polished and you're kind of in that ivory tower and that's all you guys know. But it's, hey, when we develop all these things, like we do a ton of VOC or, so voice of customer, where we bring in experts in this case, right, for that summit around the world, right? And we know the way we do things maybe here in the US is different than how we do them in Latin America.
It was 21 countries, is that right?
Yeah, there was 21 countries represented there from all across the globe. And we really take that feedback and say, hey, maybe how we do things here is different than how we do them in South America, right? Or different than how we do them in Asia.
Right.
And maybe what we're doing in Asia or South America is a good practice or is a good way to do things that we can implement here. Whether that's from, performance of the product, or a feature that the product may need, or a benefit of the product that we didn't really end up seeing or knowing because we don't have the same climates here, or we don't have the same road conditions, right? Because again, we were talking PPF there. So that's all valuable intel we take back, and so we take it very, very seriously on when we bring those people in. Like I said earlier, we try to learn as much from you when you're up there than we give to you, right? And I think that's the really unique thing about not only our training centers, but when you go to St. Paul for training. I mean, you're on 3M's world headquarter campus, right? Like you're in the same buildings that scientists and product developers are. So when we were talking about where was Control Tech and Comply, and like where were things that we take for granted now that are just industry standards.
Yep.
Where were they developed? It was like, it was in a lab. The building we're in now is a brand new building, so it wasn't developed there, but it was in our old building where, that's where someone developed that technology.
Yeah, and I say it all the time whenever I'm in classes, like if I'm showing that, and then because a lot of times you'll have somebody that has a little bit of experience and then a rookie in a class, right? So a rookie in a class, you show them Control Tech for the first time, they're just like, oh man, this is crazy. And the guy that's got a little bit of experience is like, oh yeah, well, that's kind of the industry standard now, and it's like, well, where did it come from? Let's start there. Like, where did it come from? And it doesn't matter. They all have it. What matters, because now as you look towards the future, you look at products like PWF, right? Where there's like all this new technology and it's like these cool things. And it's like, that's why it matters, right? So that's what you're buying into. And like, I try to communicate that in such a way that it's, again, I'm not trying to, it's not a sales pitch. It's just like, hey, keep in mind, all right, the industry is where it is today because of that innovation and because of that technology.
Yeah.
And, so it's important.
And we spend billions of dollars a year on that innovation, right? And whether it's in our division or we pull something from another division, we spend countless hours and dollars on doing that. And I think that's, again, when obviously I'm making sales pitches for 3M, right? That's what I try to tell people. Like, look, that's what you're buying into. Like when you're working with 3M, it's about being on that leading edge. It's about being on that cutting edge of like, okay, what's next? What's the latest? What's the greatest, right? Whether it's from, things like Control Tech and Comply that we take for granted, but even, the variations now of Comply, right? Or air release that we have, right? I mean, when we started out with, the original C, that old crosshatch pattern, which I know if, most of your audience is probably that install base are going like, that was the best pattern. You shouldn't have come out with another one. The deepest channels, I can move air anyway as much as I want. But then when you look at the other side of the business, right, whether it's the small business owner or the designers, right, or your sales guy trying to sell it, right, like having that crosshatch, that diamond plating pattern that maybe bled through a little bit, they were like, yeah, this is a problem. Like our customers don't want to see it. So I mean, that feedback.
Installers love it.
Right. Installers love
Customers, can we make it better?
Correct. Can we make it better? And so then there's the evolution of CV2, which doesn't exist anymore. And then, CV3 and then, micro Comply. And now we're on to CV4. So, that's all feedback that's taken from customers. And then it's defined and redeveloped and defined up in that building. And then, it's something we roll out to the marketplace.
So there's a few things you hit on there, and I kind of want to capture both. I know we're under a little bit of a time thing here, but so one, your background comes from sales, right? And it sounds like you started your career at 3M. And then the other thing was when we're talking about classes and your role with 3M, when you start breaking up the accreditations and then like inside those accreditations and certification, there's a lot of moving parts there. And like, that's a pretty, so I definitely want to get to that and I want to talk to that. But at the same time, I'm interested to hear just a little bit about who you are and like where, so are you from St. Paul? Are you from?
No. So born and raised in Chicago. So grew up in Chicago, went to school, to Paul University.
I've heard you say hockey a few times, right? Like you're a hockey guy.
Yep. Big hockey guy, big sports guy, right? So I love, basically anything Chicago. I tell people it's the best summer city in the world. You
don't tell people that you root for the Bears, do you?
Unfortunately I do. Yeah. Okay. So Bears fan, Hawks fan. So I understand like the suffering. So I love to just be a part of an organization that it just constantly brings me disappointment. Like
just gets beat on all the time.
Like the Bears, the Cubs. We didn't win a World Series for, I shouldn't say we, I'm not on the team, but they didn't win a World Series for 108 years. That was a thing to go through.
Sure.
But I've had my moment there. They've won. The Blackhawks had a nice run. So yeah, I mean, big sports guy, love Chicago, love being there. Went to school in the city at DePaul. And so 3M recruited heavily at the time through some partner universities. So that's kind of how I got recruited in. And so the funny thing is when you get recruited into 3M on the sales side, they place you. So like you get accepted as an intern, and then they come back to you a couple months later and say, hey, we're going to put you in XYZ division, right? So
there are a ton of divisions, right?
Yeah. So yeah, there's, at the time, right, there's 39 divisions. We've had some consolidation stuff over the years, but at the time when I was coming in 2013, there was 39 different divisions, right? So very diverse, massive conglomerate. And so they came to me and said, hey, look, we're going to put you in at the time, which was called, the commercial graphics division. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, what's that?
Yeah. Did you have a clue at all? Like
zero idea, right? I mean, I knew 3M like most people do, right, outside this industry from the consumer facing products, right? So
Sure.
command strips, Post-it notes, Scotch tape, and stuff like that. So I have a job now, so I can say this, but that was like the extent of my research, right? I was like,
Sure.
I was a college kid applying to jobs all over the place, right? So it was like, hey, 3M, big company, I need a job when I graduate from here. Like, yeah, let's apply for this internship, right? And it was paid. So I was like, yeah, this is a no-brainer. So I mean, like the extent of the research I had done, I was like, okay, they're at the time we were in like the medical business and we were in safety and industrial, right? And I knew we made safety glasses and earplugs and, respirators and things like that.
Now,
so
was that like a reflection of your education? Like, was it like you went to school? Like, what did you go to school for?
Yeah. So I went to school, I double majored. So I majored in marketing with a concentration in sales and then finance. So could have graduated a year early, but, college is a lot of fun. So I was like, yeah, let's kind of like ride this thing out for another year. So
Sure.
Because of that, I had to get another major. So I was like, okay, well, finance is kind of close.
Sure.
I originally went in thinking I wanted to be an accountant. That's what my brother was. And he went to DePaul. He's a couple years older than me. And I took, my accounting 101, 102 and was like, yeah, I can't do this for the rest of my life. This is miserable.
I would say that you were probably, if you did decide to go down that road, you were like the most interactive accountant that I would have ever met.
Yeah.
You were pretty laid back and quiet.
Yeah, no, I was like, this is like spreadsheets all day. Like, yeah, I can't do this. Like,
Sure.
I like numbers, and that's why the financing was cool. But I was like, yeah, like I need that interaction. So it was actually my brother who was like, hey, they have this kind of concentration at the time in sales through marketing, and my dad had been in sales my whole life and
Gotcha.
worked his way up and was a vice president of sales. So I mean, I kind of knew what that was and like what he did.
Sure.
And I was like, yeah, that like doesn't sound terrible. So I took my first class and was like, yeah, I'm all in. Like, this is awesome.
Cool.
You just talk to people all day long. And I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. So 3M was a huge corporate sponsor of DePaul at that time in the sales program. So they came in, gave a speech one night in one of my classes, and was like, hey, yeah, we have like this internship. And so I was like, oh yeah, this is awesome. Like, it's paid.
Yep.
Did, maybe like the bare minimum of research and was like, okay, this is kind of what they do. Went to the internship. And the guy who gave me the job out of the internship kind of joked because, they were asking me at the time, like, hey, what's your like relevant work experience? And I was like, well, like I've never done anything in sales, but I've worked my whole life at a pizzeria. So like, I know if you tell me how big of a party you have, like I can tell you how many pizzas you need for that party.
It's funny. Earlier when we were talking about going and grabbing lunch and I just happened to mention pizza, the look on your face of like, come on, dude.
Yeah, I mean, we're
going to have pizza in Asheboro. Is that what we're going to do?
Yeah. And no offense to Asheboro, the food's been amazing. The barbecue's great. I would not say this is like the hot spot for pizza, especially coming from Chicago. So I kind of joked with you and I was like, yeah, man, I think if you take me for pizza here, I'm going to be severely disappointed. So like, let's just not.
But again, the barbecue
barbecue, fantastic.
The brisket is so good.
I'm still dreaming about that brisket. So like, yeah, brisket here, great. Pizza, yeah, not so much. So
maybe next time we'll try. Maybe a slice. We'll just see what happens.
We can maybe venture out for that. So that was kind of my joke in the interview. I was like, look, I don't know if you consider this relevant sales experience, but like, yeah, if you tell me you have a party of this many people, like, yeah, I'll tell you how many pizzas you need for it. And so he kind of laughed about that and told me after I'd gotten the job, he was like, yeah, that really like stuck with me that, you didn't think that was sales, but like there's how many people used to call you all the time and say like, hey, yeah, I had, 5 kids I have to feed. Like, how many pizzas do I need? And you can just rattle off how many pizzas they need. And I was like, so he's like, you were selling something at the time, right? You didn't view it that way. So sure. I was like, yeah, I guess I never thought about that, but great, got me the internship. So they extend you the offer and then they call you a couple months later and they're like, hey, you're going to go work in this, at the time we were called commercial graphics. And I was like, oh, okay, sweet. Like, what's that? And I remember the lady coordinating the internship, she was like, it's an awesome division. They sell adhesive back vinyl. And I was like, okay, what's that?
Sure.
And she's like, yeah, so think about, a truck, a van that needs graphics, signage, you sell all the raw material for that. And I was like, oh, okay, great. Like, this is a paid internship. It's going to be 3M on my resume. No matter sure. what I'm doing, it'll be a great experience. So I remember hanging up the phone. I'd called my dad and I was like, hey, yeah, this is what I'm doing. And I was like, this sounds like the dumbest business I have ever heard of. Like, there is no way this business makes any money, sure. right? Because at the time, right, as an outsider looking at this business, you don't realize how much graphics are around us, sure. right? Whether it's vehicles or street signs or advertising, right? Like right. You don't realize it if you're not in this business. And then I got into this business as an intern and then have spent all of my time professional career in this sure, this division.
Your eyes were open right now. It's like you see it everywhere.
Yeah.
All day, every day. Like, yeah.
And now that's all. I mean, so when I first, when me and my wife first kind of started dating, right? Like I would, we'd be in a parking lot somewhere and I'd go look at a wrap or I'd go look at, a wall graphic and she'd be like, what are you doing? And I was like, yeah, I just curious on like, is this a good wrap, right? Sure. Did they do a good job? Sometimes, especially if it was like the old C pattern, right? I could tell if it was 3M or not. And she didn't really get it either until, she would be out with me. And again, I'd be like going up to wall graphics sure. or going up to window clings and looking at them that she was like, oh, wow, like this stuff's actually like kind of everywhere. And I was like, yeah, it's a massive business, right? This is a multi-billion-dollar business across the globe. And there's always a need for it. And I look at, when we look at like fleet numbers and stuff like that, the percentage of vehicles that are actually branded is super small. Right.
Yeah.
And we don't think that, right? Because we're in the industry and we're sure. like, yeah, we're branding vehicles all the time. But if you look at how many just white trucks are out on the road,
right,
and go, hey, most of the time that's a business.
Sure.
You'll start to have an appreciation to say like, yeah, that could have branding on it, and there's a reason it doesn't. And that for all of us in this industry, it's like that's something we can go after, right? Like anytime I see a white vehicle, I go, that's a missed opportunity that we can be going after, right? And
sure.
and there's reason for it. So interning this, spent time in sales. So I've spent time in our Dallas market, Washington, D.C. I ran that territory for a little bit, and then spent most of my time back in Chicago running Illinois, Wisconsin, and Northwest Indiana for us.
Is that a pretty good sized market for you guys?
Yeah, it's one of our largest markets.
I mean, there's some pretty heavy hitters out there, right? I mean, you've got some big ones, like Lowen's in that area, right?
Yeah, I didn't have Lowen, but Lowen's in Kansas.
That's businesses like that. Like if people don't think about like a fleet of trailer, for Lowen, it's always big fleet jobs, right? The U.S. Foods, the McDonald's, whatever, those are sitting in a parking lot somewhere. Somebody's wrapping those things. Like
100%.
So somebody's producing the graphics. And so to have one company that can just pump, that's where I went for my certification originally in 2013. And so they give it a little tour of the place. Yeah. And you see the big turbo printers just kicking out.
Yeah, that was back when they were running turbos. Yeah. And that gives you a new appreciation, right? And so like I said, being in this business now for 12 plus years, right? And spending 10 to 11, all on the sales side. I have been in, sign shops, wrap shops that literally are in someone's basement, someone's garage, have, maybe a 24-inch plotter and
from the biggest
yes
to the smallest.
Correct. So I've seen that, right, where no joke, they're running a Gerber Edge and a little plotter, right, and they're just making some decals, all the way up to like the Signature Graphics of the world, who are large graphic manufacturers running.
Signature's up that way too, right? Were they part of your?
Yeah. So Signature was part of my responsibility for a lot of years. So I mean, and then you look at the backlit signage. I've seen some of the largest backlit, from the AGIs of the world to Everbrights, to Stratus or Icon, and
we joke about it a lot. It's like we've almost gotten kind of like conditioned to like some things in life where it's like you get in your car and you don't necessarily think about what it takes to make a part, right? Like the one little sliver of leather on your seat, right? Somebody had to cut that, somebody had to sew that, somebody had to put it together, and you could really, like I said, you just kind of get numb to that, and you don't think about that on day to day. So I think backlit signage is one of those spaces where like we've gotten so used to seeing it everywhere that like if you haven't slowed down for a second to realize like what really goes into that, like that's a massive business.
Oh yeah,
and it's complicated. Like the safety behind it, the legal behind it, they trying to hit colors where light can come through, keeping power to it. Like it's a whole.
Yeah. And daytime, nighttime colors, right? I mean, there's a huge science behind like how you hit colors and how we view colors. And, to put it into perspective, I always tell people like, next time you're at a Home Depot or a Walmart or a Target, just walk around and see how many backlit signs, right? From a parking lot sign to what's on the building to maybe how many different, directional or pylon signs they have, throughout traffic. And you start to add those up and go, okay, they got, whatever, 10,000, 5,000 locations. And you start to add, the size, the magnitude of those sign faces, and just, okay, that's one retailer, right? Now, so the backlit sign's always very interesting. We're a very small component, right? That's the funny part of a backlit sign is I always argue the most important component because that's what you see, that's what you interact with, right?
Yeah,
So if you're Home Depot, you have to be Home Depot orange, right? And the vinyl, the film is part of the component that makes it, Home Depot orange.
Sure. I say it with race cars, right? Like they build the cars, they do everything right. But if you were just to take the car, the motor, the transmission, the body, and everything, just put it out on the racetrack, they'd all look the same, right? You'd never be able to identify. But like whenever I go in and describe, the black race car with the silver stripe and the big white number 3 on it, you're painting that picture in your head, and you know exactly who that is, and you can, so that's what sticks with you, right? Like that's what you recognize, and like so obviously we're a small part, right? But it's a pretty important part, right?
Yeah,
because that's when you go to a race and you're rooting for that guy, like you got to be able to identify who that person is, and that's
if you again, corporate side of me coming out, right? But if you extrapolate that even farther, right? Like the reason all those guys are on the racetrack is that corporate branding and that corporate sponsorship, that's what you're putting on the vehicle, that's right? So, when you take it to that next step, and although, a lot of times people look at graphics as like, okay, that it's the afterthoughts, but that's how people know who you are, right? So the reason, the big retailers brand their vehicles, brand their trucks is, that is a moving billboard within your target demographic, right? Sure. And it is on the road every day, every week, every hour, depending on what your business is.
Sure.
There's really no better advertising than saying, hey, if we have vehicles, they should have branding on them.
Did you like sales?
Love sales.
Yeah.
Love sales.
Even still.
Like I like, so I still like have a passion for, right? Like really just working.
You kind of sound fired up about it.
Yeah. I mean, it was,
I don't need any material right now, but I was thinking about buying some.
Yeah. Well, great. That works. No, I mean, it's one of those that, this opportunity to kind of come to the training, side was a unique opportunity for me, right? It got me out of sales, but it's teaching me a lot personally and professionally and helping me grow. But the thing that I like is what I really enjoyed about sales was kind of working with my customers, connecting with them and saying, okay, I'm here as a resource, right? I used to always tell my customers, look, I'm never going to sell you anything. I'm a consultant for your business, right? Because at the end of the day, the way, our go-to-market strategy is, we don't sell anything directly to you, right? You're going to buy it through a distribution channel or something like that. So I always said, view me as a consultant for your business. So when you have questions, comments, concerns, issues, problems, whether that's film related, whether that's, hey, we're trying to go after a piece of business and we're unsure how to do things, I said, that's where I can come in and help. That's the power, that's support from me as a sales side. And so that's how I always portray it to my customers. Like I'm never going to sell you anything, because at the end of the day, you're not buying a roll of 180 CB3 from me, right?
And it makes me wonder if customers are utilizing that, because that could be super valuable. You know what I mean? So I'm assuming like you had some pretty good clients that would lean on you for some of that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Right. And that's kind of what I built my brand and reputation behind. Right. And
Gotcha.
For me, then when I got into the training side, the unique part, and we kind of talked about it earlier, right? That competitive advantage I feel we have with our training and our AEs and authorized trainers, me being able to then kind of come to this side and say, okay, hey, how can we be more effective here, right? Like, how can we take this? We've never really had somebody in my role. It's been a role that I'll say multiple people have kind of pitched in and help. And so this is the first time 3M is like, hey, we're going to dedicate a resource, to this role and try to grow it. I looked at it and said, okay, this is, even though I'm getting out of the sales side, which is what I love to do, the upside I saw in it was, the ability to still be able to connect with customers and say, hey, I'm still being that consultant to them, but now I'm helping them through like the lens of training, which I think is super important for this industry. And that's training in general, right? Obviously we have our own programs, and I think our programs are the best, and I can sit here and spew on like why that is, but no one wants to hear that, right? Sure. I think what the message I want people to get from me is training is super important. And that is whether you have never touched a squeegee before or you've been doing this for 20 plus years, right? And the prime example I'll give of that, so I went to School of Wraps, where you were teaching, Molly and Tanner were teaching a class down there back in June, right? And I was kind of standing there observing, right? And part of my job is to go out to our facilities and go look at them and make sure things are running correctly. But the one you were demonstrating a bumper, right? Okay. You were showing the class like, hey, this is how you do bumpers, right? And there was a female in the class, right? And she was watching bumpers, and she had been installing, I think, for 10, 12 years, right? And you were showing some techniques and stuff on how to do a bumper, right? And certain ways to do it, and kind of how you attack a bumper, and really how to look at it and view it and say, hey, these are the things you need to be noticing of. And if you're getting fingers this way, this is what this means. If you're getting fingers, vertically or horizontally, this is what you mean. This is how you address it. And the look on her face when you did it, and again, this is somebody who's been installing for, I think it was 10 to 12 years at this point. She's like, I've done 1,000 bumpers. The look on her face when you started to explain the why and the how, she looked over at another student in the class, and she was like, what he just showed me, what I just learned, was worth the price of being here. Like everything I've paid to be here, the money, the time, the debt, everything I put into it, I learned, one thing, that one tip, that one trick was well worth the price of admission. And so, that's always my appeal to anybody who, again, you've never touched a squeegee before, you're going to learn a ton, right? I mean, there's a ton in any training you take, you're going to learn a ton. But somebody who's been doing this for a long time, there's so much you can learn. And I believe that truthfully on, it's a couple things. One, it's the amount of, you're going to be faster, better, more efficient. You're going to view a vehicle differently, right? When you go through that formal training, or you just have somebody else, explain a certain way to look at it, or explain a certain way to do things. And sometimes that why, there's a ton of people who do things all the time and they don't know why they're doing it. It's just like, it's like someone told me this is how I hold a squeegee, so this is how I hold a squeegee. Right. But when someone starts to explain to you, right, like the 10 and the 2, and they make the frown and make the smile, and why you do that, how it helps kind of airflow out, or in the case of the bumper, right, and on how you're stretching things, and when you get the vertical fingers or horizontal fingers, what does that mean, and how do you address that? Yeah, that if I could have, because it was a candid moment, obviously, but if I could have had a camera and just encapsulated that to somebody and said, instead of me telling you why you should go to training, and again, whether it's our training or anyone's training, watch this. Like watch how he demonstrates this, and whether you know how to do bumpers or not, right? And you know that technique, but the look on someone's face who had been doing, and like she said, she's like, I do bumpers every day, right? Like I do it every day in my business. And what he just showed me and the understanding now I have of why I do the things I'm doing. And when the film's going to act a certain way, what I need to do to then either fix it or correct it or know I'm doing it right.
As a trainer, it's kind of the best. That's what we do it for, right? Like, and you never really know when it's going to come, because it, just in that case, right? Like obviously on the bumper, bumpers seem to be more challenging for some people, and like they can get a little overwhelmed with it. Maybe they're overcomplicating it. But yeah, like we work really hard to make sure that we're building, good explanations and making sure that it's not just, hey, watch me do this and watch how great I am. I'm going to show you this magic trick or something. It's like we want to explain. We want them to get it, right? So it's like, but when it happens, man, it's the best.
I'm sure as a trainer, right? For me, it was gratifying. I wasn't even the trainer. I was in the background, but I was like, this is why we do it, right? Like this is why we have these programs.
And sometimes it's the dumbest little thing, man. It could be just the way you hold, you hold your hand, or you start something and they catch it and they go, wait a minute, do that again. And then you do it and they're like, why do you do that? And then you can explain to them, okay, this is this and this. And they're like, I've been doing it, like you said, for 20 years. And I never knew that. You know how many times I've messed this up or just kept my fingers crossed or something like that. So that a peace of mind, it goes a long way. And me as a trainer, I'm still learning, like I got, I want to get better. And
I think anybody, and this is probably more like a life motto than it is like, hey, training. But I think anybody who thinks they know everything and there's nothing left to learn on a topic, that's somebody who in my opinion has shown like, all right, then you really don't get it. Because like you're never going to be 100% proficient at anything. And I've seen fantastic installers, right? And even some of, like when we were up at the PPF Summit, right? These are some of the best PPF installers in the world. And even all of them were like, I took something from this, right?
You watch Marcos get a fender set, man. You watch how smooth he is, and he's, Marco is kind of awkward and kind of nerdy and right. And like, I think he's a super cool guy, right? But he seems awkward. But man, as soon as he got that film in his hand, it was like he was dancing with it, dude. It was like the way he was moving, and like he's using this crazy amount of slip solution, and like just watching him was like, where did that guy come from? Like this is the most confident, beautiful dude. It was incredible.
And it's stuff like that it's guys like him that are fantastic installers, right? I mean, Logan
and a good trainer too.
Yeah, fantastic trainer, right? But I mean, it's what he can do with PPF film is
it's incredible,
unbelievable. And to see, right, again, we brought in some of the best from around the world. Yeah. To see their faces when Marco started like working on stuff, even all those guys were blown away.
It was cool. We were standing there talking, and Logan introduces us, and we're making small talk about mustaches and PPF, and he says, man, honestly, he's like, what am I gonna tell these people? And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I was like, Logan, I said, let me tell you what Logan told me. I said, the way Logan put it to me was there are 40 close to 40 trainers that are coming in. Yeah. Some of them are AEs, some of them are trainers, right? But there are 40 of these people that are coming in. I could have picked any of them. I picked you for a reason. Yeah. Just be you.
Yeah.
And that's enough. I promise. Right. And so fortunately, Marco got to go before me. Right. And I'm watching Marco, and like that's kind of like I left it at that, right? Like that's my advice. I don't know what else to tell you. Like that's just what the man told me. I felt better after he said it. Hopefully you feel better, And he gets up there and he's like, "Okay, well, this is how I do it." And you're watching him do it, and it's like, yeah, that's why you're here. Like that, that's why you like just hearing him talk about it, and like again, like even when we were talking, like he soft spoken and kind of, just kind of awkward, but then like he got up there and it was just like bam, like, and I'm like, where the hell did that guy come from? It was so cool.
Super impressive. Yeah. And that's,
But that kind of sums up the whole, for me, that was like the whole thing. Like, you start watching these guys from Poland and from Japan, and like, we don't speak the same language. Like, not like they don't speak English. I don't speak Japanese, right? So it's like, we don't know how to communicate until the squeegee hits the film.
Right.
Right. And then we are speaking the exact same language.
100%.
Like, and so it was just so cool to like, anyway.
No, and I think that's, that again is the prime example of what I feel about training. Again, I mean, you're a fantastic installer, right? You're a fantastic trainer, right?
Sure.
And you can train on a
I agree
ton
with
of
that. I would not. I'm just
yeah, not to pump your tires or anything like that, but you are, right? And so, you can train any discipline at 3M,
Sure.
right? Whether it's windows, walls, floors, fleet, or Dynoc, VCC. Yet, you have gone, you've passed all of our accreditations, super high scores on doing that. And yet you came to that and said, hey, there's something I can still learn. There's something I can
so
still
much.
take away.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I want people to take away from like maybe my conversation or me being here is like,
Sure.
look, training, I don't care who you are in the industry. I don't care how long you've been doing this. There's always something you can learn. And there's always something we can learn from you, right? Like to me, training is very much a two-way road, right? As much as, and I said it earlier, as much as, you're going to learn from us when we teach you something, we are going to learn from you.
Sure.
And we're going to be able to implement, those things into training over time.
So although I would love to sit here and talk about how great I am, I mean, I could do this all day.
That was the only nice things I had to say. It was
enough.
Short and sweet.
I don't need any more. I do want to, let's just a quick breakdown of like, so when we talk about accreditation, certifications, what does that look like? Like if you had to, break it down in its most simple form, because I know a lot of times the words, those words get kind of mixed around and
100%.
People get, they can get confused on like how that structure works.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, and I think if you can pull up, 3mgraphics.com, right? Like that's where.
Yeah, you do it like this. You go, hey, Lambert, can you pull that up?
Yeah, hey, Lambert, can you pull that up for us? Thanks.
Got it.
Yeah, so this is our, so if you go to 3mgraphics.com and then up in that top area, you click resources, you'll find a whole page on, installer training, right?
Okay.
So that's going to have, all of our classes, all of our facilities listed on here.
Okay, so if you're an installer, you're just looking, or not even an installer, like maybe you know nothing, you want to go learn something. You're going to be directed to one of these 6 or 8.
Yep, you're gonna be directed to one of these facilities, and I apologize to Rap University and Chris. We don't have Canada on here. It's something we're working on fixing, but we do have a facility up in the Toronto area.
Okay.
And Chris at Rap U.
Okay.
But so maybe kind of going down like what you see on this site, and I think the first thing I'll address is maybe 3M preferred versus 3M certified, and what does that mean, and because I think a lot of people have questions on. Okay, hey, like, aren't they the same thing?
Sure.
Two very, very different, accreditations that you can hold, right? And so, for me, 3M Preferred is an individual designation. So, anybody who goes up and takes and passes one of our tests, right, will hold a 3M Preferred status. So you can be preferred in, windows, walls, floors. You can be preferred in fleet. Vehicle color change or VCC, AWF or automotive window film, PPF, paint protection film.
Okay, so just because you take the class doesn't mean that you're a preferred installer.
Correct.
Okay, so there is testing involved.
Yep, there is testing involved.
When do you think people should test?
So that is a fantastic question, right? So I think everybody should go through training, whether you are, I've never touched a squeegee before, or I've been doing this for 20 years. I think everyone will find a benefit going through the training course. And so the training courses for us always happen before the test. So some of our courses are 2 days long in training. Some of them are 3 days long in training, just depending on the course. I think everybody should go through that because you will, like we've talked about those aha moments and stuff like that. You will learn things in that training, right? That will make you a better installer, right? Whether you're faster, more efficient, you understand the why, things like that, right? Then when it comes to taking the test, I think it depends on the individual, right? I have seen, some people who have very little experience, but are very, very good with their hands and they
quick learners,
right? They understand how to work with film and stuff like that. And so Some people come up and can take it pretty quickly and pass. And it's, I mean, you've taken the test.
Sure.
When I say I've taken the test, I've seen it. I don't do this every day, so I'm not fast enough or efficient enough. I understand the concepts,
right, but
there's no way I could do it in the time requirements.
Well, I ask because I don't know that I've ever asked you that question before, but we get it a lot where we get people that come in that this is their first time touching a squeegee, and they think after these 3 days they're going to be prepared to test, and it's like hyper. Right.
Yeah.
Like unlikely that you're going to be able to, pass that test.
I would say super unlikely.
Yeah.
If you've never touched a squeegee before, if you show up to training, I think it's going to be highly unlikely, and it should not be your understanding or expectation that I can go to 3 days of training. I've never done this before, and now I can go pass a test. Right. The test is very rigorous. It's graded very tough. And even experienced installers, right, will tell us like, hey, I've been doing this for 10 or 15 years. So what made it tough is like, there's a clock up in the corner.
That's right.
And when I knew I was under the clock, although in my shop, you're under the clock, right? Like if you have a day to get it done,
different.
You have a day to get done, but it's different when you see a clock up there and it's like, okay, you have 60 minutes to do this or 90 minutes to do this. It throws a lot of people off, right? So, traditionally, I always tell people go through training. If you have experience, and again, let's say you're going for windows, walls, floors, and fleet, if you have experience and you've been doing it for consistently, right, where you're doing consistent wall jobs, textured wall jobs, vehicle wrap jobs, and you're doing that consistently day in and day out for probably 18 to 24 months, I would say like, yeah, go take your hand at the test. If you're only doing maybe one of those disciplines, like, hey, I'm a vehicle guy, right? And I don't really do windows, walls, floors. I do a lot of vehicles. You can probably pass the fleet test. But like there's going to be some nuances with windows, walls, floors that, hey, you're going to have to, when it's to registration, to doing some butt seams, to how to do a corner on a window.
Yeah, that answer is much better than mine. Normally I lean into like, if you're asking, you're probably not ready. Right.
Yeah, no, and I think some people ask because they're unsure of like their own abilities, right? And some people are fantastic installers, and it's like you got to believe in yourself a little bit. So yeah, I mean, I always try to tell people if you're doing something constantly at your shop for 12 to 24 months and you're proficient at it, and whether it's a wall job that comes in today and tomorrow it's a fleet job, and you're like, yeah, we're good, right? I can bang this out. Go take the test, right?
So let's just say you're that guy. Right? You took some training. Maybe you went into a 1 day at a distributor, right? You spent a year. You practiced some of those skills you learned. You went and took the class, right? Now you're feeling confident. You're going to take the class. You're going to take the test. Why take the test?
Yeah, so I think that's a fantastic question, right? So taking the test, right? In the windows, walls, floors, fleet area, right? You kind of then have this decision to make, right? And you don't have to make the decision right away. You can do it later on, but that is the only, I'll say those two accreditations are the only ones where there's an option, right? There's what we call 3M certified, so a 3M certified installation company, or, a 3M preferred installer. Okay. So a preferred installer is an individual designation. Again, this only applies to windows, walls, floors, and our fleet, training.
So me as a Scott Decker, I can go.
Correct.
I'm going to go to the class. I'm going to take the test, and now if I pass, I'm going to fall in that preferred.
Correct. You're going to fall in that preferred status. That preferred status gets you listed on, 3mgraphics.com, where to find an installer. Yep. You will be listed on that website. So we funnel all of our leads in our business, through that site.
Sure.
Right.
Josh, can you pull that up? Let's just take a look at what that looks like.
So that site, you will be listed. Right.
Yep. So if somebody goes and they Google and they're looking for a certified installer or a preferred installer, they're going to, Google, certified preferred wrap installer, whatever. 3M's website's going to come up. They're going to click on it. They're going to go to their area, and then boom, there's Scott Decker's name.
Correct. There's Scott Decker's name.
Yep.
When then we look at 3M certified installation company, right? That's no longer an individual designation. It is a company, right? Okay. So, if it's not Scott Decker, but it's, stick with Scott, right? Sure. You're now an installation company. Yep. You as a company are listed. You become a member of an organization called the UASG.
Okay.
And so they're the organization who administers 3M certified for us, right? So all those member companies are a part of the UASG. There's an annual fee to be a part of that. But being a part of the USG is like being a part of any other organization, right? There's support within that organization, both from, member support in terms of, right, you're with other, business members that are really there to help you succeed, right? So when you have questions, comments, concerns, issues, right, you're reaching out to other business members in your field who maybe have gone through the same things you're going through, or they share, projects within their organization. So sometimes the UASG is going out. They're a household name. They're going out and actively, winning business as well, and then they're dispersing that out through their member companies.
Sharing the wealth, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then you also have other member companies who, maybe there's VSP up in Buffalo, right? Trace's company up in Buffalo. He wins a job, and part of that fleet's down here in Asheboro, and he's like, hey, look, I need some help, or it's in Charlotte. I need an installer, right? He's going to go right to that list and say, okay, who's my resource? Who's somebody I can trust? Who's not going to steal my customer? Who I can send out there and is going to do a good job, or is going to be professional, is going to be on time, is going to do what I need them to do. He's going to reach out to that. So the certified company takes it to the next step, where you as a company have other member companies that you can lean on and you can trust. And then there's benefits within the organization, right? So, from exclusive training opportunities, there's internal training opportunities, there's networking opportunities. Like I said, there's kind of that business sharing opportunity. So whether you have, questions on your printer, or you're looking for a new printer, or you're going, hey, look, I'm struggling to retain installers, right? What do I do? You have a whole organization, right, that has people you can reach out to and say, hey, I need help. They even have stuff within their organization that I think is super helpful, especially nowadays, where, if there's a certain vehicle you need help with taking apart, so you're going like, I don't know how to take the door handle off this car. The UASG has a resource that you can reach out to and say, I need the instructions of how to take a door handle off a 2018, Porsche 911, right?
So I've been through the program, right? I'm a member, I'm a proud member, and so to go get your preferred, right? Go take a class, take the test, you're preferred.
Correct.
UASG, it's a little bit more to it than that.
Yeah, there's requirements even to be within the USG. So you have to be in business for 3 years. They come in and do an on-site audit, right? So they're auditing, your business as a whole. They make you get references. So you have, both a 3M reference as well as
one has to be a member of the UASG.
Correct. One has to be a member.
A couple of existing customers.
And
then I think I don't think they word it like competitors, but I think it's somebody else in your region maybe that also owns a wrap shop. I think it's something
correct.
Like
Yeah.
that.
So I mean, it's a very extensive process. So the vetting done in that 3M certified company is kind of taking it to the next step, right? And so if you're looking for your company and saying, hey, I don't want this individual designation anymore, right? Like, and there's nothing wrong with just, hey, it's Scott Decker, it's stick with Scott. But if I want stick with Scott and I want to legitimize that business in the installation, the windows, walls, floors, fleet installation area, the UASG and 3M certified is what you want to look at. If you're just, hey, I'm a sole installer, I travel the country and all I want to do is just kind of install work and it's just me and that I'm good with that. Preferred's a great option.
So they're a third party, right? Like, so it's
Correct.
not, so they're not exactly, it's not 3M, but you are a part of the organization. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So I am part of, full disclosure, I'm part of the UASG.
Okay.
So I sit on the board. So there's member companies.
I think that's a good thing, right? Because although they are a third party third party, and I mean, there's still a lot of responsibility there because they represent 3M.
Correct.
Right. So it's like, I think it's important that there are some 3M people that are involved, because then it's like, you're going to hold them accountable. They're going to hold you accountable. Right. So it's like, you're still connected. And I think that's good.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things that we share with that organization. Right. So, I mean, when I say you get exclusive access and content, because you're part of the UASG, right, there's things that 3M shares with the UASG and gives you kind of some business insight that you don't get if you're not part of the organization, right? So when it's windows, walls, floors, and fleet, you kind of have those two paths to go down, right? And then when we jump into whether it's VCC or vehicle color change, automotive window film or AWF, PPF or paint protection film, or what we call architectural finishes, which would be Dynoc, which are other classes. All of those only have a preferred designation. So you would go to, traditionally all those are 2 days of training, and then that third day of testing, and then those would get you listed, on our website, which we have up here. And everyone kind of has a little bit different of a badge. So we have a fleet badge, we have a windows, walls, floor badge.
So it's important to make sure that you're identifying, as from a customer standpoint, or even, if you're looking for a preferred installer, you want to make sure that if you're hiring somebody to do Dynoc, that they have that accreditation, right?
Correct.
Okay. Same with vehicle color change.
Correct. And if you see that 3M certified logo, the assumption there is you have both the fleet and the window, walls, floors accreditation. So instead of having those two badges, you get the 3M certified badge versus the two badges you're kind of seeing right here, which are a fleet badge and a window, wall, floor badge.
Got it. So it sounds. I mean, there's a lot going on there. Right. And I think we unpacked a lot pretty quick right there. It sounds like you've been through that a couple times.
Just once or twice.
So I've been on a kick here lately where it's like, I told you earlier, like I'm watching how people come into the industry and like where they get started and then trying to follow their path as they go. And I've really been on this kick lately where I think that window tinters convert really well over to graphics guys. I think it's just, and I think it goes window tint, PPF, graphics guys or whatever. And so it's like watching how, but then watching it go the opposite direction. And it's interesting to see how quick, like, a lot of these things convert over. You know what I'm saying? Like it's interesting for me from a trainer's standpoint, is like watching guys that think that like, oh man, I'd never tint a window, and then they come in and it's like, oh, you got some pretty good fundamentals there. Like we're not too far.
Yeah, it's, I think the funny thing is when I talk to a lot of people either going through training or in the industry, right? There seems to be this divide, right, of wet and dry.
Sure.
And you have your dry people, dry install people, and you have your wet install people, right? And they're two different disciplines, right?
For sure.
And I'm not here to sit like, yeah, they're not. But a lot of the fundamentals and how you work with, film. And so the wet side, for maybe anyone who doesn't know, right, that's your PPFs,
sure,
and your AWF films. You're going to install those wet. When you get into, your color change films, at least in the 3M world, your fleet films, you're going to do those dry, right? We have control tech and ply, so slidability, air release, you don't have to do it wet.
Yeah.
So everyone feels like there's this massive divide, and it's like if you're a wet installer, that's who you are, that's what you are, and if you're a dry installer, that's who you are and what you are. And I've seen as this industry has started to kind of morph more so, and that really is with the introduction of color change films kind of first, and then protection wrap film, from 3M or what we call PWF, so colored PPF film. With like the introduction of all those, this industry is starting to kind of morph, and the lines are becoming very, very blurred.
Oh yeah.
And you're having, fleet people who start to dabble into color change, be like, well, I can kind of do this paint protection thing because I have this colored paint protection.
I think the opposite. I think maybe they get a little bit more clear because it's like a guy. So when you start breaking up films into like good, better, best, right? Or you think about like high gloss versus just like standard 1080 black. You know what I mean? Like obviously there's a gap there, right? They're different, but the applications are different, right? So
yeah,
it's
the
like,
fundamentals are the same.
The fundamentals are the same, but and then it helps you navigate. Like hey, listen, if we need to find something that's a little bit more affordable, we have that option. If you are looking for this, like Nate always has this thing where he's like, perfection requires perfection, right? And I really like that because it's like, if a guy brings in, an old rusty Honda, right, and we're trying to wrap over it's not going to look perfect, right? So it's like, it doesn't mean that we can't do this, right? Like there's just another pathway that probably fits better for this situation.
Yeah.
And so it's neat. Like to be able to start seeing these clear pathways to let these guys integrate and convert over to like, maybe a guy that's been doing commercial windows. It's like, man, you've got pretty much the fundamentals that a little bit of training, we can get you over to automotive window film.
Yeah. And to me, I think there's, when I say things are blurring a little bit, right? I think you had your traditional tint shops, you had your traditional PPF shops, you had your traditional wrap shops, right? And now everybody's goal, right, is to maximize and increase profit, right?
100%.
We're all in this business, right? Or we're all in business, right, to make more money, right? And some people argue, well, there's this threshold and happiness and all this other BS. But for sake of this conversation and to make things easy, right, and not to get philosophical,
sure,
we're in business to make money.
That's
right. And as you start to see this business, when I say it, it starts to get blended. Those lines of like, you're just a
your hard line. Yeah.
Now it's like, well, look, like we could do PPF and like we could add it. Like we have the bay, we have some skills,
sure,
and you know we could do that. And again, not to bring this back to training, but like the plug there is we can be a resource to help you navigate that,
sure,
right? Like use 3M as your resource to say, look, I am a window tinter, but that vehicle color change, that fleet graphic stuff, that PPF stuff is interesting to me. And I think there's a business model there that we can add on. That's the prime person to go to training.
Sure.
Because I look at that and say, you will get a very, you know, from a very low cost idea. You can go to training, you can understand the fundamentals and really then sit back and evaluate and say, is this something I want to bring into my business?
100%.
You don't have to spend, you know, tens of thousands of dollars on equipment and time and just say, hey, we're going to go do this. And then go like, I made a mistake. I don't know what I'm doing. For a minimal cost, you can attend a training class and you can leave that class and say, yes, this is something we need to do, or it's not for us.
Yeah.
And then go to our website and find a partner, right? If it's still something you want to offer and say, hey, look, we want to offer PPF, we want to offer vehicle color change or anything. Who's a partner in my area that I can reach out to and say, hey, look, here's the deal. I'm a tint guy. I need a PPF guy. Are you willing to come in once a week or when I have jobs? And so that's how you can scale your business, maybe even, again, more cost effectively by utilizing that resource. So back to
and that's a free resource. Like
100%.
Yeah,
anybody can log on there. Anybody can use it. So back to like my philosophy, and I took that from the sales side is, I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm not here to sell you my training and say it's better than the next guy. Yeah. I'm here to consult you and say, if you take my training, you are going to be much more educated on a topic, on a decision, on whether that's going to be good for your business. Yeah. And if it is, can explore it, take the test, take the accreditation, pass it. And that's how opportunities and leads will funnel to you. Because again, we funnel anyone who calls up 3M and says, and it happens all the time. You know, people always say, hey, what's the benefit? I said, if nothing else, you're going to get leads. Are all leads good leads? No.
Not always.
Is every phone call you're going to get from there going to be a home run? And you're like, oh my God, every job I've gotten from here. Sure. But I tell most people, for the cost of what training is, you only need one job.
Yeah.
One job's going to pay for you to go to that training.
That's right. And
then after that, everything's cake you get from it. So if you can pass it and you can get on that website, it's really not much to get an ROI on going to training. So again, utilize us. And I know we're tight on time. So, my like closing thoughts to anybody is, we are a resource.
Yeah.
We are there, and training is very much there not to sell you anything. Training is there as a resource. When you go to training, whether it's St. Paul, whether it's any one of our other facilities,
sure. Love to have you at School of Wrap. Come.
Yeah, come to School of Wraps, right?
Yeah.
It's a fantastic, and we have, I need to mention we have 8 facilities across the United States. So St. Paul, Minnesota, which we've been talking about, is our corporate headquarters. We have School of Wraps in Nashville, Tennessee. We have Wrap EDU down in Orlando. We have Geek Wraps, which is in Fort Lauderdale. We have Full Circle, which is out in Phoenix, Arizona. We have WrapX, which is in Southern California. And then we have Wrap University up in just outside Toronto. So those are our 8 facilities across the United States and Canada. But not only do you get training, but what I talked about earlier, and I think what makes us unique and different is our authorized trainers and our AEs. When you go to one of these schools, you get access into those trainers, right?
Sure.
So part of, again, us being that consultative sale and really there to be a consultant for your business, when you go to that training and I mean, you're a trainer at School of Wraps, right? Like people have access to you after they leave School of Wraps. People have access to Jamie after they leave. People have access to Nate, Todd, Jorge, Logan, Andy Armstrong, right? Those are trainers up in, or Jody or Adam.
Social media makes it incredible, right? Because it's like, I'll get DMs from people that have came and taken a class. Like we had a couple of, I think they're up in Pennsylvania. They message me regularly.
Yeah.
He owns a detail business and his wife wanted to get into wrapping, right? And like, they'll just shoot me messages every once in a while. Like, hey, look, we were using these techniques. Thank you. Like, and so it's like, it's obviously like for them, it's like knowing that they've got a resource that they could, at least reach out if they needed something.
100%.
Sometimes it's just cool to like see the progress of like them learning and growing, like the connection back and forth is just really cool. So although it is super helpful for them, it's like we enjoy to see it too.
Yeah. And I forgot one. We have Loan in Hutchinson, Kansas. So there are our other facility that can fantastic facility, right? And there's some benefits if you go to Loan and you want to be Loan certified as well. You can get that if you go through Loan and be on kind of their list. So another fantastic facility. But yeah, all of our trainers are at, I don't want to say at your disposal because that makes it sound like you can just call them whenever. But they're there as a resource, right? And that's a benefit of training that I don't think a lot of people truthfully understand when they sign up for it. That if you get nothing else and you just come through training and you're like, okay, I got a squeegee and I got some knowledge and that's awesome.
Sure.
But you get this wealth of knowledge of these trainers that, I can't tell you how many times, whether it's you or Jody or Adam or the Carneys, right? I've been with you guys and, you're like, oh yeah, I just got a phone call from someone who came through class, right? Or someone, whether they're even at some of our one days, right? So we host classes at distribution partners across the United States, right? All year long. And they'll be like, yep, someone was in class and they DM'd me or they shot me a text.
And everybody's different because sometimes you'll see it in class where they come up and they're so like, they're very thankful and like they're appreciative and like maybe you see them out at a show later on. And then some people just aren't like that. And after the fact, they leave a review, right? They'll go and take the survey or they'll go to Google and they'll leave a review. And it's like, while they were in class, they get kind of quiet and reserved. And then after the fact, they leave this, this great review about how great the class was, how much they appreciate it and everything. So I think obviously for me, it was like, I wanted to have you on just because I was excited about it. I think it was cool. You're not down here very often. And so it was like that part's cool. But then like just shedding some light on the whole training program absolutely. And then letting viewers like just kind of see who you are and like hear, it's refreshing to me to know that like you were boots on the ground. Like you're out here bumping elbows with guys that do this every day. Like you hear their pains, like where they're coming from. And it's like, I think it's you can properly serve a customer when you know where those pain points 100%. Are. You know what I mean? And so for you to be in there, I'm sure you heard regularly how tough installation can be, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like you moving into that training role, it's like, man, like you can really help and make a difference and solve things. And I want to tell you, like you've done an excellent job. I mean, I
appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. Like it's refreshing. Like, you're just doing a good job, right? Like, and it's just one of those things. It's like, it's nice to see that somebody cares and like that they're thinking about it, right? And that you're constantly working on like, it's not just about sustainability, right? Like it's one thing like to keep something together, but like innovation and like keeping growing and like, how can we change? How can we make things better? Obviously we want to take what we have and control it, but at the same time, like, just continue to grow. And
and that's, again, right? Like 3M's making the investment in that, right? Like this role didn't exist and they're saying, hey, like we value training. Sure. We value what it does for our customers and the value that it brings to them.
Well, and you can see it like in the free resources, like the fact that you can just get online and you can find an installer immediately and in all those disciplines, like that's incredible.
Yeah.
And it's good for their businesses. Like they're, the opportunity there for them to see a return on investment on class is incredible. Like it makes it easy for me. It's like, I can just kind of give that spiel and it's like, well, dang, I should probably come take a class. And it's like, yeah, good answer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, my goal, if nothing else, if you, regardless of how you feel about 3M or anything like that, I implore everybody, if you have not taken formal training, go take formal training.
Sure.
Right? Wherever you take that training, go take that training. We have a ton of resources on 3mgraphics.com for you to find out what training is right for you. If you have questions, you can reach out to us through 3M 3M Films on Instagram, right? You can DM us on there. We have a ton of training content that gets posted on there. We always post, and we just recently posted all of our Q4, training center dates.
Yep.
So if you're looking for dates and stuff like that, you can go to the individual websites of these schools or see our dates on 3mgraphics.com. But on Instagram, we have them there at 3M Films. And you can look through the dates, and if you have questions, reach out, DM us, and we're more than happy to answer them and try to help.
So I know that, like you said, we are a little bit time sensitive. So I do really appreciate you coming on, making the time to do it. I think this is great. I hopefully people will take a lot from this. I'm prepared to see a lot of comments and different things throughout the thing. I look at that as a good thing. Like, I'm excited that, hey, as those things come through, maybe that leaves us room for another episode to go back and kind of touch on some of those questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
that stuff.
I definitely would leave the door. I've enjoyed doing this. So, if the questions or comments are there and it warrants me coming back on, like I kind of joked before this, I was like, I don't know who's going to listen to this, considering. Right, like, I'm not an industry. I don't own my own business. I'm not like an installer for the last 30 years and have gone through that trial and tribulation. So, like, I kind of joked and I was like, yeah, I don't know if anyone's going to find this interesting. But if they do and people have questions, and like, yeah, we're, reach out, we're available. And
like I told you, I think it's cool that you're willing to put it out there, man. I think that, like, you're a little brave, right? Because, like, people could look at it and they're going to hold you accountable for those things. But, like, this shows them that you're not worried about that, right? Like, you're willing to say, hey, look, yeah, I'm the guy, right?
Yeah,
so the
absolutely.
good, the bad, the ugly, all the stuff that comes with it. This is me, and this is what I'm doing. And I think that means a lot to people because, like I said, it's easy to look at the big 3M logo and say, I don't like what you're doing, right? But when it comes to something specific, you being willing to be held accountable for that, like, I think it's incredible. And because I feel like as a trainer, like, we're on the front line, right? Like, so when everything's great, we look like superheroes, but then, like, when things aren't as, when they're not perfectly smooth, it's like people want to know, like, hey, what's going on? Why are you doing this? Who is it? And it's like, well, man, some of that's, I'm just a trainer, man. I don't know.
Right.
Like,
This is kind of the face, and
it's cool.
Yeah. I would say, like, all feedback is good, right?
Yeah.
And it's stuff we can take and learn from. It doesn't mean we're going to, do anything, change anything,
Sure.
but yeah, I mean, we're welcoming the feedback, and we constantly want to improve. We constantly want to change. And so, yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on, right? I appreciate you, earlier being a trainer, right? Because that's what sets us apart, right?
Sure. So just real quick before we wrap it up, I had Brad Felt, he's an installer up in Indianapolis. And he's a good friend of mine. He came down, did an episode with us. And right as we walked out the door, he was like, shit, man. I was like, what's up? What's going on? He was like, and it was late. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean? We're both tired. We had a car to wrap the next morning. He was like, I forgot to shout out my wife. So since then, I've made it a point to give Brad Felty's wife just a quick shout out as we do the podcast, because I feel like she deserves it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
He made a mistake. He forgot.
Happens to the best of us. It was late.
Just try to give her a shout out. And I like to take that moment to give you a second. If there was anything else that you want to mention or hit on, or if there's anybody that you want to shout out, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I want to. If it was going to be a shout out, right? It's our AE community and our authorized trainers, right? I mean, I think they're the engine behind what makes our training special and great. Sure. And so, right, they make me look good, right? So, I mean, right, I look at myself as the manager, the general manager of a team, and it's the players I have and the players we've assembled that make us great. So our application engineers, or so we call them AEs, right? So our 3M application engineers, and our authorized trainers, I think are the lifeblood and truthfully the superstars of our training, right? I'm kind of behind the scenes, working through, right, the marketing side or maybe how we can make improvements. Yeah, and it pains me to say it in front of Scott, right? Because I don't know if his head's going to be able to get out the door when we leave.
You hear that, Mom? They like me.
Yeah.
They really like me.
But no, I mean, like those it's those two groups of individuals that I think are super important to our success. And so, thank you to you, thank you to, our AEs and our other authorized trainers, and the facilities, right? So the trainers who, they work at the facilities and own and operate. We wouldn't be successful. We wouldn't be here, if it wasn't for that team. So
cool. Well, man, thanks again. I appreciate you coming.
Yeah, no, thank you.
And,
Thanks for having me.
Of course, like I said, it's been awesome. So,
yeah, no,
cool.
Looking forward to it. Thanks.
Yep. Lambert, we good?
Yep.
Awesome. All right, let's go.